Hello, it is the end of 2023. It is Christmas Eve and I'm dressed up fancy, so let's film. So, I have not made a book video for a very long time. I've still been reading, just haven't been making any videos. But I thought it was high time to do my top 10 books of 2023. Okay, so I do not actually own all of these books, unfortunately. And yeah, just to preface this is all just books I've read this year, not necessarily published in this year. And I read for enjoyment. Look, I'd like if it can tickle my brain, if it can be really thought-provoking. But I more rate books on like how fun and how much it emotionally affects me. So that's where we're at. I've got a top 10 and I've decided to do 2 honourable mentions. My first honourable mention is Yellowface by R.F. Kuang. Everyone knows what this book is, but basically this is like, I'd say it's like a thriller, but it's more of like a literary, political take on racism in the publishing industry. So this didn't quite make it in there because while I liked it, it didn't 100% resonate, but I did think it was like a really interesting exploration. And because to a point, I do believe everyone should just be able to tell whatever story they want. You don't have to be from a certain denomination to be able to tell that story as long as you're mindful how you do it. So there were times earlier on where I could kind of see where this character was coming from, and then it just kind of got worse and worse and worse, and it was just pretty extreme. I did find the ending a bit lackluster, but yeah, the whole thing is it's just like a character study on race, and it's fact. And a lot of mistakes were made, but you know, this woman has not written a book I have not liked, so thank you, Rebecca. The second one I don't have a physical copy of, and that is Tress of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson. This was the first secret project to come out this year, so I got just the ebook set, because I think the physical ones, the shipping for Australia was more than the books were going to be, so it would have been about $500 all up, and I just went, nah, we're not doing that. But so this one nearly made it in, but it just didn't have that extra oomph. The ending was a bit abrupt, and it kind of felt like there was more to it. But the first half in particular, I really adored, because we just have this. It just kind of felt like a fantasy fairy tale with such an interesting world where we have these ships that sail on pollen or spores or something like that, and different coloured ones do different things, and they kind of fire them out of cannons, and our main character like just starts off really sweet, and we have this bit of a romance where she loves the prince and he brings her like a different cup from all his travels, and she just really loves cups. I just thought that was so sweet, and the illustrations were amazing. So that's what's held me back from buying a physical copy, because they don't have the illustrations, just the normal ones that were published and are in the shops. So I probably won't buy it because I don't have room. But good job, Brandon. I enjoyed it. Alright, let's get into the list proper. Book number 10 is The Testaments by Margaret Atwood. I have been meaning to read this for so long, and I was put off just because it was a bit chunky, and because The Handmaid's Tale, I love the show. I've read the book as well, but I'm like, the show is like chef's kiss, amazing. But so I was a bit hesitant because I didn't really know where this was gonna go and if I would enjoy it. But surprisingly, I just inhaled this book. I don't think it necessarily expands the world so crazily and like you have to read it. But if you did enjoy Handmaid's Tale, I would still recommend getting this. And so we do kind of get a different perspective of growing up in Gilead and kind of just those worlds colliding. And yeah, we get Aunt Lydia as a perspective in here, which is really interesting. And I don't want to give too many spoilers, but it's very kind of like expected what happens there. So I wasn't necessarily mad of it, because I'm pretty sure the outcome in this book is the outcome we're going to have in the show or something really similar. So I really hope that does happen. But I do feel like some of the plot, there was a bit of like assumed plot knowledge from the show to reading this one, but I think you'd still be okay without doing it. I don't know, regardless, good book. The ending was like a nice emotional moment, and yeah, I love my dystopia. Book Book number 9 is a Kindle Unlimited book, and that is Baby and the Late Night Howlers by Catherine Moon. So I just finished this the other day, and this is an Omegaverse book, which I only kind of learned was a concept, a thing, a month or two ago. Basically, I just kept seeing all these books that had "not" in the title, like with a K, like K-N-O-T, and I was like, what is going on with these knots? I don't understand. And then Madison Fox actually has a great video explaining the Omegaverse, and it's kind of weird, but I'm kind of getting into the weird stuff. So yeah, basically, it's just different races of humans. Omegas have this heat, and they need to be with a pack of alphas, and they just look after them. So it's a really complicated world, but I think did a really good job of explaining things. And while this was like a really kind of sexy book, I really enjoyed that we just have a bunch of cinnamon rolls. Like, that is like the perfect romance book to me, where it's like sexy cinnamon roll, perfect meal. Next, obligatory Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. So both the first one and the second one came out this year, which is crazy to me. But I think I still enjoy the first book the most. I am not as rabid as some people are about this book, but I still really enjoyed it. It was like a decent, solid, fun time. Only notes I'd say were maybe just like, we can do a bit better with the world building and like the characters, because I would just forget who people were. But once you get going, it doesn't stop. And the banter is really good. The dragons and the banter. I haven't read too many books with dragons, but this was so fun. Like, I loved this book. It was a good time. Highly recommend it. Number 7 is The Fine Print by Lauren Asher. This one took me by such surprise, because looking at the cover, I was like, I don't really know what this is about. But basically, this is a romance set at Disneyland, but not Disneyland because of trademark. What do they call it? It's like Dreamland. And that's the castle on the front, which makes sense. So basically, the equivalent of Walt Disney has died and left his inheritance to his 3 grandsons with the stipulations. And they're all stipulations that lead them to find love. And we follow each brother in each book. And this one, Rowan has to, before he can have his inheritance, he needs to be the, like, head Imagineer. Like, what do they even call it? Yeah, well, basically, he needs to, like, run Disneyland, Dreamland, for a year before he can have it. He's there thinking he's like hot shit. He was creative, but he's lost that creativity. We run into this girl it's a bit of a grumpy sunshine. She is sunshine incarnate. She works at the salon and like does little makeovers for the kids, and it's really cute. They cross paths, and she kind of brings out his creativity again and like opens up his heart, and they just do cute. They do cute. Number 6 is another Kindle Unlimited for the fans by Nyla Kay. This was just so fun, so sexy, but also had such good banter and heart. Like, it just had the whole package. Perfect meal. So the premise for this one is we have 2 stepbrothers. They don't have enough money to make it through college. So they start an OnlyFans because that's the obvious thing to do. And so, obviously, like, it's a bit of a taboo, but I'm willing to suspend disbelief for fiction, and, you know, they're not actually related, which does help it feel a bit less creepy. But, you know, highly recommend this one, like, from some really hot scenes, but just, yeah, just fun, just good. My heart was so full when I finished this book, 5 stars, and you should read it. Number 5 is Happy Place by Emily Henry. So I have read all her books to date, and this is probably my second favourite, with Beach Read first. I didn't fully know what to expect going into this. Like, I didn't study the synopsis terribly. I was just like, it's a rom-com, I'm going into it. And I was on the edge of my fucking seat reading this book. Like, the angst was so much, and like, I cried towards the end of this book. I just the banter and the history. And yeah, just read it. It's good. And like, look, it does have happy moments, but like, just know that it's not happy the whole time. But it is this couple going back to their happy place. But yeah, it's just some like buzzword tropes. It's a second chance romance, fake dating, miscommunication. Emily, good job. For book number 4, we have Icebreaker by Hannah Grace. So obviously this cover is freaking adorable. I love this. And it was making the rounds. I hadn't really read a hockey romance before. And I did. And I had the best time. I had the best time. And even though this is, what, like 500? Oh, not even. It's like 440 pages or something. This was so fun. The banter was so good. The sex scenes were great. It was just such a fun time. I'm going to have to reread this at some point. It made for a good antagonist. But that dickhead, can't even remember his name, but the dickhead, her ice skating partner, nah, he can go in the bin. I'm done with him. Memorable scenes from this, I remember they're doing like the Dirty Dancing lift in the pool. Cute. And just, yeah, he's a cinnamon roll, and she was just a grump who learned to love. Perfect meal. Next book I don't own yet, because I read it from the library, and that is Girl, Goddess, Queen. Cannot remember the name of the author right now, but she's on the screen right now. This is yet another retelling of Hades and Persephone in a young adult fantasy format. And I wasn't expecting too much going into this, and it took me by such surprise because it was just so good. Top tier banter, so many good, like, memorable passages. Like, that's why I need to buy a copy so I can, like, highlight it or tab it, because I just loved it. I just loved it. I don't think it even did anything super crazy. Like, it's still set in ancient times. It's not reinventing the wheel, but it just made the story so human and so, like, empowering and, like, finding yourself as a woman, which I just thought was top notch. Just, it was such a good read. I can't wait for her to publish some more books. All right, business end. Number 2 is The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. I am so late to this party, but it was still so worth it. So I don't even have it right now because I've lent it to one of my aunties because it's a non-negotiable. Read it. So this is a World War II historical fiction set in France. It's harrowing, as you can imagine. It's not really such a fun time. Like, we just have such interesting perspective. So we follow these two sisters, and so, you know, one of them is very like, let's comply so that we can survive, and the other one's like, this is unjust, we need to do something. And so seeing those two butt heads, it's like they both have a point, and I think it's one of those things, it's like you don't know what you would do until you're in that situation, and like both, any move has risk. It was just really, really good. It made me cry, I think, twice in public on a tram, which that says something. Usually, you know, if I'm in public, I'm not going to be as emotional reading something, but lo and behold, I was just on the tram, choking back, sobs, reading this book. And number 1 is Planet Barbarians by Ruby Dixon. Okay, so this is my first ever, like, alien, like, monster romance. And look, I understand that sounds crazy, and it is a little bit, but this book, this series, is like the sweetest thing ever. Like, they are such comfort reads. So even though we have these like big blue dudes, we just have all this fun, like, fish out of water, like, conflicts where they don't understand each other, and then learning to understand each other, and just, yeah, this whole thing, like, we have mates, and they just want to look after them. They just want to, like, feed them and cuddle them and love them up real good. So, again, like some of the other reads on this list, like, we have the cinnamon rolls, and we have the heat, we have the spice, and it makes the perfect meal. Perfect meal. So, I would definitely recommend trying this series. It's really cute, it's really fun, it's really sexy. And I do plan on collecting the paperbacks at some point. There's just going to be a lot of them, and they're just still coming out. But I highly recommend it. It's on Kindle Unlimited. You can get the physical copies as well. They're like been picked up by traditional publishers, which is amazing. And that is my top 10 books for 2023. Please tell me if you have read any of the books that I've mentioned and what your favourite book of the year is. And I will see you next time. Bye.